To our next story now, the head of the UK's Financial Conduct Authority recently singled out an Instagram story posted by billionaire reality TV star Kim Kardashian to her 250 million followers that promoted crypto token Ethereum Max. Charles Randall said the post may have been the financial promotion with the single biggest audience reach in history and warned of the risks of speculative cryptocurrency tokens. Britain's financial watchdog has urged social media platforms to stop influencers from promoting unauthorized adverts for financial products. This is just the latest crackdown on the booming cryptocurrency market. Well, for more on this, I'm now being joined by Simon Dixon, the CEO and co-founder of Bank to the Future. He joins me from the Isle of Man. Simon Dixon, it's a pleasure to have you back again on Channel's Business Global. It's also a pleasure talking about Kim Kardashian in this show because we never get the opportunity to do it. And I think she was probably even surprised that her name was mentioned by financial regulators in the UK. What were your thoughts on that and the Financial Conduct Authority singling out her post about Ethereum Max to warn about crypto speculation?
Yeah, it's a bit of an interesting situation. So when having been in the industry for over a decade now, we know that many of these things are tightly regulated and there's lots of confusion. People don't know the difference between Bitcoin, which acts more like a currency, versus some kind of other alternative, which acts more like an investment product. So when celebrities enter this industry, they get very excited about the technological possibilities, but then they realize there's actually a vast array of regulations. And when you promote things which are less reputable and less known than Bitcoin, it's a minefield for celebrities. And we have seen lots of enforcement actions from regulators for promoting things, and people jump in and buy those things because a celebrity endorses them. But that would need to be followed by a bunch of disclaimers and disclosures, and celebrities don't often know this. So this is really a game of cat and mouse between the technological innovation and regulations. This has been going on for over a decade now, but Kim Kardashian has got herself caught up in the middle of one of those for promoting things and not realizing that there might be a bunch of disclosures and disclaimers, because people are going to jump in, put their cold hard money in these things, and they're not the same as Bitcoin.
Absolutely. I was waiting for you to say Kim Kardashian's name. Right, you said it. We'll draw a line on the Kardashian star. Bank to the Future have obviously been doing this for a very long time. Have you ever been tempted to have an influencer promote your products?
No, so as a regulated securities business at Bank to the Future, we have to adhere to very strict rules around who we can promote to, who's appropriate for such investment products, and all of the myriad of regulations and rules that we have to go through. So when we make out a tweet, there's been a bunch of lawyers, a bunch of disclosures, disclaimers, and all sorts of stuff that go behind that, so that investors can fully appreciate some of the risks. We've also put it through a vast array of our due diligence team to ensure that we're not accidentally promoting some kind of scam, because our industry is full of them, and it's very hard for the untrained mind that hasn't seen all the pitfalls for the last decade to distinguish between a legitimate project and a scam.
Absolutely, and I can testify this interview, this discussion is legal, Simon. I recently read on your website an open letter to some of your investors about the mounting regulation. I don't know if it was just my interpretation, but it seemed as if you were describing some of these regulators as the bogeyman. But surely this is good for consumers to make sure that, you know, all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, right?
Well, you can split regulations up into a few things. So regulations really became a thing after the Great Depression of the 1930s, where financial products almost, kicked off one of the worst periods in history. And so ever since then, every single crisis has produced new regulations. And every time a consumer or an investor gets burnt, they complain to regulators, which leads to another myriad of regulations. And so decades and decades later, we have different types of regulations. And so I'm all for consumer protections, but there's a lot of regulations that don't protect consumers. For example, the main focus at the moment is on anti-money laundering. And so while I can appreciate the agenda and goals, with anti-money laundering regulations, it does the opposite of protect consumers, because it requires them to upload immense amounts of data, prove the source of funds, prove their source of wealth, and put that data at risk of being taken by hackers. So we have competing, and then you have things like privacy regulations, which are actually in complete counter to anti-money laundering regulations. And sometimes a regulated financial institution, we want to protect our investors, but we can't protect them because we have to follow anti-money laundering regulations. And then we have privacy laws and GDPR in Europe stating that you're not allowed to do that. So it's a very, very challenging thing and competing regulations. So I'm all for protecting investors, but often regulations lead to the exact opposite of investor protections.
Well, hopefully that will tighten up as the industry matures. Another big talking point recently has been about El Salvador. On our show, we were discussing the fact that it crashed on the first day. Do you think the media were paying too much attention on the technical glitches, which would always have been inevitable?
Yeah, I do think that often Bitcoin is a volatile beast. It always has been a volatile beast. You know, if you're looking at the short-term price, then you're always there's an industry phrase of getting wrecked. And what tends to happen in our industry is that in the short term, our markets are very manipulated. And so there's an old phrase of, you know, buy the news, sell the fact. And this is probably one of those if you're a short-term trader. Long-term, it's extremely bullish. And these corrections that we have in between, just log out of the chart and you can see we've been in a 12-year bull market from the beginning of Bitcoin with a bunch of volatility in between. And so when these large events happen, like a country, which is a huge event for Bitcoin, making it legal tender, which means that it's legally required for shops and people in El Salvador to accept Bitcoin, then you get these big events that lead to hype cycles. And then short term, a bunch of market insiders try to manipulate the price, crash the price, and squeeze out the less trained and the weak hands that they're called. So this is something that always happens with short-term behavior in all markets. Absolutely.
Before I let you go, very quickly, Simon, you recently reached a milestone. You've attained over $1 billion of seed funding. Congratulations. And what's next?
Yeah, so we've had over $1 billion invested in funding rounds listed on banktothefuture.com. And next, we're focusing on helping people build retirement plans so that they can benefit from the vast array of innovation that's happening, holding Bitcoin, holding shares in crypto companies, and earning some interest on that Bitcoin, because there's been so much innovation now, and we're packaging that up into retirement plans for those that really want a plan B, a hedge against traditional financial products and many of the risks associated with the traditional financial system now that we're in such uncertain times.
We are, gosh, it's been a whirlwind of the past 18 months. But Simon Dixon, CEO, co-founder of banktothefuture.com, thanks so much for joining me on the show.